Dash Cham from Ed Flanagan. It's actually, God,
Exactly 1 week.
to the hour that I saw him.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And the smoking.
Yeah, that's what I did. Right.
So we just need your davening regularly for
Oh,
the continuing
I
success
tell you what,
here.
it's amazing that the craving is gone. There's only left habit. You know? Habit is...
That's what you've been trying to
But that's
figure
the
out.
interesting thing that with me, I mean, I'm sure that the process is slightly different, but I mean, it was less than a half an hour.
That's all it takes.
You know, no, what
did he
because
do?
my eyes were closed, so I felt the wish.
Yeah.
Swish.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
I have no idea.
I figured I'd
think
come
it's-
back here and I'd ask Reb Zalman, what's going on? I know it has something to do with the auric field, but I can't.
It's in the matrix, whatever. Do me a favor, both of you. This is for Andres Nechama. Here's a pen for his son.
Oh,
He's a chazan and he wants
yeah,
to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
Wow.
You have a good pen.
Yeah. Do I have a good pen?
Do you?
You asked
Of
You,
course.
Buddy, you have a good pen.
Rakpe, I'm
Okay,
great.
when you get
Reb Zalman, I need to ask you a question.
good.
You want?
Yeah, sure, wherever.
How would you write Philip II in Hebrew letters?
Philip.
Philip. How would you make a fe sofit or a pay at the end of the name?
Well, that's a very hard, difficult thing. And that's the reason why I've taken to do it always in English, in a get and everything else. Because it starts out the f, you know, the fe.
Right,
Since we don't make pay fe,
right.
what has happened is, what's the document on which you write?
It's interfaith ketubah,
Aha.
and it's the name of the father of the groom is Philip II. Philip, you know,
I would just
Boulder
write
II.
it, just as I do, and in a get it's even more crucial. I would write in English letters, in capital English letters.
Uh-huh.
Because unless you decide to make a fey without a dot, and then you put a pay with a dot inside. And two lamets, really.
Mm-hmm. Two lamets.
Yeah, Philip.
Right, okay, Philip, uh-huh.
A dagesh, you want to put a dagesh in the lamet, that's fine.
Right.
But you see, the orthography is driving us crazy with these.
And for the second, you would put in Roman numerals?
Yeah, Roman numerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought if I write
How
it
do you
normally, it would
say
be
it?
Philip.
How do you
instead
say
of
it in
Philip.
Hebrew? Is it Philip Hasheni?
Yeah.
Is
well,
that or
Philip Haben, you know. Unless you have a shlishi, then you have to say Haneched.
oh right, that's right.
All right. If you want us to see where we are, here.
Thank you.
That's not the first page.
It's for his- Kabbalah
I'll give you the
Chazanut.
first page in a moment.
Rabbiner, Dr.
Yeah.
Hail Rabbi.
Well, that's I wrote it as his suggestion how to make it sound right.
Well, if you know, it's crazy to say, but had there not been a Shoah,
Ja,
you would have been a Herr Rabbiner, right?
Dr. Rabbiner, meine Mutter hat gewollt, dass ich ein Professor Dr. Rabbiner werden soll.
Oh, this is yours too.
Good.
Yeah.
First page.
You know, I just read a novel on the, but it was about the gypsies in.
Pardon?
I just read a novel, but it was about the gypsies
Yeah.
during the Shoah, and it followed the experience of a particular family of gypsies during the
They were
Shoah.
suffering.
Oh, I mean, it's been so many years since I've read, you know, Shoah literature that it just brought back all the nightmares.
Yeah.
But I picked it up because I've always been fascinated by gypsies and didn't know anything about their culture, and so.
Well, there's a guy by the name of Petulengro. Petul. Write it down. And see if you can find his stuff on the web.
P-E-T?
Petulengro. Petulengro.
Okay.
He was sort of a gypsy king in England. And he describes how his mother would buy meat only from a kosher butcher because it was clean, it was right.
They have such a thing with cleanliness.
And they have a whole thing about you can't be born inside a house, you have to be born under the sky.
Right.
And she was doing tarot reading for him and laid it out, Yud He Vav He, Yud He Vav He. So Petulengro's book, years ago I read the thing. He was very warm-hearted toward Jews, and this was, I don't know whether this was after the Shoah, but then the question, there's also a beautiful DVD around of music and pictures of gypsies from India all the way to Spain and England.
Sure.
And you see who they their derech. You have a feeling that we have some yachas with them.
Mm-hmm.
What it is hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before anything else, today I want to read you a little bit of the impact of Michael Berg and the Kabbalah. Okay? I just want to show you how smart they are. Whether you like it or not. This book is a letter addressed to a prison. It is a prison where no one gets out for good behavior and everyone is sentenced to death. You who read this are an inhabitant of this prison, as am I. And for both of us, an incredible opportunity has presented itself. The truth is we are destined to become like God, but have been tricked into becoming inmates, posing as ants, indifferent to the ghastly spread between what we are and what we could be. In this book, Becoming Like God. And my name is Michael Berg. You can think of me as a reporter. The wire service I'm connected to is a 5,000-year-old body of wisdom called Kabbalah. It is my authority is, he's talking about his parents, the 23 volumes of the Aramaic text called the Zohar, the 3 volumes. But by the time they have translated, and there's 23 volumes. Art Green once pulled a trick on me when we had a Chanukhat Habayit on Emlyn Street in Philadelphia. He made up a thing that came from Zohar Chelik Dalet, which was putting into good language something to say something about Chanukhat Habayit. I lived with, internalized, and have taught the secrets of the Zohar all over the world. And there's one principal secret upon which becoming like God rests. The Zohar states that a time would come when the knowledge of the Zohar, the methodology, to go from a life of pain, suffering, and death to a life of total joy would emerge from the shadows and become available every man, woman, and child. Behada Sifra Yafkun B'nai Yisrael Min Geluta, and he has something on which he is basing it. But the polarity of what this world is, and then he goes into the DNA. What will you learn becoming like God? So he has an introduction. The rock in the mountain reveals your true nature. Hint, it's not a weak, confused little individual with a name, a social security number. A crack in the prison door, second one, unveils the opportunity to escape the maximum security prison called life. And I can imagine people reading that and the slickness of that.
What terrible imagery, though.
Huh?
What horrible imagery. This is a prison, we're prisoners?
Well, if you go to the old paradigm in which the Zohar is based, that's what it is. This Alma de Shikra. Sitra Achra is Sholit here, and the whole business of Yetzias Mitzrayim, everything that he has to say goes,
Kafka.
well,
You know?
sure. So I'm just saying that I'm looking at the way in which they're doing their marketing, in which we are goylemis in comparison to the outreach and everything else. You know, we have much better schoira than they have. He goes to the thing about, but he has tzorach gavoa. He has everything of the key platform of Reb Ashlag, Yehuda Ashlag. He has all that stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying we need to learn. That's
Yeah.
instead of cursing the darkness, you know.
Light a candle.
All right. Let's go and start over here. This is a piece that I've been wanting to teach, and I want to send a copy to Naomi Steinberg, because she is now doing something on the Eser Sfirot, and she's gotten a lot of good material from Cindy, and I will, in Yetz Hashem, continue with the other thing, Ketzat, the Elazar Askari stuff that we had started. How do you get into those Sfirot? And we'll do that too. But here on Tetzaveh, it's so timely. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Enigma first. Ya da 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 ya di da da dam ya da da di da da dam I da da ha di da da dam I da di da dam na da ra 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 da da ra ha da da ra 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 la 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 da da ra ha da da ra da na 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 ha da 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 na da 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 ma da 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 na da 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 ma da 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 ha da 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 ra 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 ta da 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 ha ra 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 ya da 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 Hi da 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 da. Yisrael Rosenkrantz is almost ready with the mikveh.
Yeah?
It is so beautiful. The walls of the room in which the bore is, where you go and dip, has tiles that are there to sort of look like a wall in the Great Canyon, in the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
The place is made so gorgeous, so inviting. It is so amazing, the chutzpah that he had to do it on his own, and he's hacked things in order to make it happen. It'll only be for women and only and not for men and not for gerut and so on and so forth. But it's a gorgeous mikveh, and when he makes a Chanukah Habayit for the mikveh, I think we want to go and visit it. He also has an apartment that he made there so people can stay over, and he has a space where he can teach. And he hopes, there's always this geschäft, there is tension between the two of them.
Really?
But he's just carrying on doing what he needs to do, And his wife is a good lady
And
too.
I want to say to their zchut, Rachel came to Chaver to talk to us about the mikveh when it was starting, and I specifically posed the question of, that some of us in my world observe nida, midyoraita and not midarabanan.
Yeah.
And that we have different ways of interpreting, the days and whatever. And she said that how somebody chooses to
count,
count, or how they choose to observe, she's not going to question. That's up to the individual. She's not going to question. She's not going to insist on, her
12
b'dika and
days,
all that stuff. And they are making it, as you said, just for nida and just for. But they're going
also
to
for
be,
healing.
But they're going to be, but they're going to be open and allow for individual interpretations.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a.
Yeah, and I work with her on the menorah board.
Yeah.
But several months ago, Menorah showed the film about the those people in Uganda who thought that they were Jewish.
Yeah.
And finally a bunch of Reform and Conservative rabbis show up and do the whole gesha. So they wanted to have a rabbi speak about the movie and the process.
Yeah.
So he agreed to do it. So
Yisrael?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they felt, well, if they're only going to get an Orthodox perspective, get another one. So they asked if I would do it. I said, sure.
Yeah.
It was so much fun with him.
He's a good guy.
We had so much fun up there, and people really enjoyed watching our interaction. Yeah. It's such a difference from Shiner.
Well, so I go on Shabbos morning. I have a shiur with him at 8 o'clock. And we learn Torah, Likutei Torah together, and it's just wonderful. All right. Ve'ato tetzave es b'nei Yisrael. V'yikra lecha Shem ezayin soch. Kose es lamoer. And then he has lehoyer ner tamid. Yesh lerames baze beha'ir le v'sum seichel. I love that phrase when he uses it all the time. Sum seichel. Yeah. You put your mind, you awaken your heart and put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other way, in Chabad it says, put your mind to it and maybe your heart is going to get involved. Yeah. But he begins that way, and the open-hearted approach is like saying, I'm going to teach you something which is going to make it possible for your mind to wrap itself around what the neshama, what the heart, the soul knows, okay? Mm-hmm. והנה, עניין המנורה ובנרותיה הם בסוד זין ימי הבניין, בסוד הפסוק שאמר נעים זמירת ישראל, עם דברי היומים לך השם הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד. כי יכול בשמיים ואורץ לך השם הממלכה. And you notice the words that he put in those two shmichiklach there is a way of saying because they didn't have an underline or an italic available to them. Oh. So this is the way to highlight. In old German ways, they used to take a word and put always a single space in between, so that it would be expanded to highlight. So he's saying these are the 7 that make up this Zayin Yemei Habinyan. Okay? So, והמתנשא לכל הראש, ועל ידי אלה הזין מידס וכוחס נסגובס עליונס, נסגלה ונספרסם כוח גדולוסה גורוסה, ורממוסה בעולם. He says, what happens? The power of his largesse, that's how I like to translate Gedula, so it should mean chesed, when you say largesse, and Gevura. And Tiferet, he makes Romemut. Why is it Tiferet Romemut? Rach v'ishtabach v'yisromam. Get that? V'yisnaseh. And also because in Tiferet, there is a mirroring of Keter. Okay. I'm sorry, someone borrowed the book from the Secret Teachings of All Ages, but I think I showed you that P. Manley Hall has this amazing book And there are the wonderful illustrations that he has in there. One illustration has a king sitting like this with this, and here is a mirror, and he's got a crown. So if you look in the mirror, you see that it makes a Magen David. See that? So if the mirror is, it makes a Magen David, which means that Chochmah mirrored becomes Chesed, that Gvura, Bina Mida mirrored becomes Gvura, and Keter mirrored becomes Tiferet. And it's very, very powerful that way. So it gives you an understanding why he would say Romemut, okay? Ki hu yitbarach leit machshava tfisa beklal, v'hu meshulal mehasaga, vel mita damyun lumadamut terchulo, he gives you the pasuk for that. So if there's ein lo damut haguf ve'eino guf, and remember I told you that he's not the damut of a guf, and not even the damut of an eino guf, neither gashmi nor ruchni. Rak machma she'abere baruch hu v'or shemoy hanichvot ve'anera retzenu lehatev lehetiv libruav lehafli lehagdi lechazda v'tua ba'olam. And what does he want to do? Uleminda the iu rav v'shalit v'yakiru v'yedu kol ba'olam goydel tuva v'chazda v'roimamusa. And for this reason, what he did was he the purpose, the motivation for creation of the world is to make sure that we will know that he is boss, as it were, and that we should all know that he is boss in order to be kind to us. Right? That's the important thing. Valkain, and now here you get the next one. Hetzil, Uvara, V'yatzar, V'asa, and again he has the two pintalach in the middle to show Atzilus B'ri Yesir Asiyah. And what he did those Eile Zayin Milah V'kochas Elyonim. Now, what does it say? It means that in all the Oilemis, that same constellation of those seven keeps showing up. Now, notice how he here isn't talking about 10, he's talking about 7. Well, why is he talking about 7? First of all, he's talking about the menorah, you know? And the whole thing about Vezed, talks about the menorah, Miksha, and there's a whole Inyan Rashi tells us about how the Midrash says they couldn't make it happen because it had to be beaten, it couldn't be poured. Now, if you had to take a lump of, as an artist, figure this one out, you have a big lump of gold. And gold is malleable. That's the good thing about gold. You can beat it and it'll take on different shape. But in order to beat it in this way, that it should come out like a menorah, can you imagine how you'd have to beat it? And you'd have to have an anvil that would have different shapes, because you'd have to have the shkedim and the gavim and all the other things that are there. So you'd need to have a tfus, that as you beat it in this way, it'll fill up a hollow in like the anvil part, you know, the tfus into which you would beat it. And they were trying, and it didn't go. So finally the Rabbi Shalom said, throw it into the fire, and out came the menorah. Which is very interesting, because in the same Sedra you have, and I threw it in the fire, and out came the egel. Next week, right?
Right.
So he is saying how difficult it was to create, but he's talking about those 7. Now, the 7 are also the Zayin Yemei HaBinyan, and the 7 is also the Ushpizin. So now, here you have a text in which he lays it all out, okay? So, he has included now the 4 worlds. He says in all those worlds you can find those 7. And when we were talking last week about chakras and sphirot, how this is, but here he goes, the Kanei HaMenorah. I think I told you also that when you look at Srofim Omdim Imalo, Sheish Knafayim, and B'shtayim Yechas Eponav, B'shtayim Yechas Ragov, B'shtayim Yofe. But if a seraph would raise all the wings up, would look like a menorah, right? So this is the thing. He's trying to let us see what the menorah is about. Now, before I go on, a note that's sort of personal to Rabbi Yeshua Heschel, which is that on Yom Kippur, he would say, V'kach hoyisi omer. Not V'kach hoya omer, the Kohen Gadol, kach hoyisi omer. Because he claimed that he could remember an incarnation as a Kohen Gadol. Okay? When he talks about the Mishkan, he tells this amazing thing, and I've never seen anyone else pick it up that way, that the Shemen HaMishcha brought the Mishkan to life. Lighting the menorah made the Mishkan conscious. So that kind of an understanding of an organic, aware container is another way in which, if I had to talk about the Mishkan in such a way, it would be like saying that Ha'em rovetzes ala hefrachim, that we are entering into the Mishkan, which is very much a Shechina space, which surrounds us, and protects us, and so on. So he wants to also tell us then about the menorah. If the menorah has such power to make it conscious, then what's the menorah about? And since the Shemen HaMishcha is again, the Shemen Lamor and Shemen HaMishcha are connected this way, because he considers that to be Chochmah. Shemen is the Chochmah, that which comes. There is Torah that's called Mayim, Torah Nimshal Mayim, and that is able to evaporate. But oil is not going to evaporate that way. Lahavdal elef havdalas, if a bishop gives the anointing at confirmation, what the bishop is saying, when you were born, you got the water, the baptism, and that may evaporate. But now you commit yourself fully. You say you give up Satan and his minions. They have a whole formula for that, and then he gives them the oil, and the Mashiach that comes with the oil is a much, much more powerful and stable way. So now here you have Kohen Gadol, having talked about Mishkan, now he's talking about the menorah, and he wants you to see that there are fractals there. Like there's the great menorah up there, which was the Zayin Yemei Binyan, and Zlacho Hashem Agdula V'Agvura Tiferet. Kamare Asher Hera Es Moshe, Cain also is a menorah, meaning he showed him the menorah above, so that he could make a menorah here below, okay?
That's very Neoplatonic.
No?
I mean,
Of course.
Of course, it's amazing. That
if you have an above, as above, so below, then you have to say there are ideal forms that exist someplace, and that's exactly what Partzufim are about.
Okay.
So these are the Zayin Midas and Kerchelyan. Val Yodam Nisgale v'Nisparsem Chazde v'Yirose v'Roimose b'Oilom v'Hein Heim Zayin Yemei Bereshis. Now let's go slow, because here is where I came in with the talus. Yehi Or. Most Sforim are going to say that the Or Shenivra B'Yom Rishon was not the Or that we have today, because the Or we have today is Wednesday Or. It's from the sun and the moon and the stars. So what was that Or that was before? It says, Ginzel Tzadikim, he hid it and he put it away, and so on and so forth. And Or Sheniva L'Yom Rishon, Hoya Odom Mabit B'Sofer Elomat Sofer. So it's like saying there's a spiritual Or you can see on a clear day, you can see forever, okay? Now, When you look at the first day's creation, what is the first part of visible light? It's the in ultraviolet. Remember black light?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We used to have these bulbs, the black light bulbs, and when there was when the pictures had fluorescence in it, then it was wonderful, and others looked very dull that didn't have fluorescence there. Ultraviolet light is very powerful because when you used to, in the beginning, when you had to burn certain chips for computers called EEPROMs, if you did it wrong and you wanted to do it over, you would take that chip and put it, expose it to ultraviolet light, and it would take out the imprint of the electrical imprint that you had before, and then you can start all over again. So it's a very powerful light, that light. Okay. So Yom Hu Bihirut Ve'or. When you say, what does it mean when I say a day? A day means something bright, as opposite to night. Reb Nachman, in the story of the 7 beggars, has this thing about, in Yiddish there's a phrase, klik v'da tug. Did you ever hear that? He's as smart as the day. So the beggar tells the story that he was saying that he is as smart as the day. So they say, which day? He says, any day you want. And that's so interesting because it's like Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin, when he came to Lemberg to Reb Yosef Shaul Natanson to get smicha from him, he needed to get a heter meir rabbanim because his first wife didn't want to take a get from him and he wasn't going to be married with her. So he got that heter, and so he also wanted to get his smicha from him. So he says, Junger Mann, hast du mal gelernt? Did you ever learn Gemara? He says, yeah. How much Gemara do you know? He says, half Shas.
Half shot. Which half?
Right? So he says, which half, right? He says, whichever one you want. Which was like saying, might have been miktsas in a way, but he didn't want to claim everything for himself. So clear is the day and the question which day, okay? The second day is Yehirakia. And for the second day on the talis, I took blue. The first one I took as close as I could get to ultraviolet, a purple stripe. And that one is a broad one for chesed, and with good black containers for keli, because chesed needs a keli. Gvur doesn't have a black stripe because Gvur is keli itself. It doesn't need it. Tiferet, again, is green. And why is Tiferet green? Because the third day of creation. Tat she'oretz deshe. Right? And the fourth day is the yellow light of the sun. The fifth day, the egg layers are created, the birds and the fishes, so that's the yolk color, that's the orange. Then you get the blood, just as chlorophyll is a color for the third day, for Tuesday, so for Friday the color is red, because it is hemoglobin. Then finally you get to Shabbos, and the first talis that I had was wine colored. He was able to find for me something that would be close to infrared. When I made the talitot in Israel, he couldn't get that kind of color. So I said, what other color could I use? So sometimes he uses black and red in some talitot that you've seen for the malchus stripe in order to darken it.
Yeah.
And some other time he uses brown. And the reason I suggested brown because anything that is alive and plant or an animal, when it dies, turns brown and earth to earth. So it is malchut, earth, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So you see that the days and the colors go together. V'yom rishon shel Shabbos midosei shel Avraham Avinu olav hasholem b'chinas midas yad yamin chesed. Not only does he say it's chesed, but he also now takes it to the right arm, so that he now makes it connected to the body. ויום שני הוא מידוסו של יצחק עליו השלום, שאבינו עליו השלום, מבחינת מידס יד שמאל כביכול, וכן כולם כנודע, and so he says, and all of them follow that way. So let's figure that one out already, okay? The same way as people do astrology, and people do Enneagram. So you can also talk about the Sphirot in such a way by saying, what do we know, for instance, about Tiferet? So we get to the green in Tiferet, and we get to Yaakov Avinu in Tiferet, and we have all these things which we want to say about that. What about Wednesday? So Wednesday you have sun and moon, the stars, and Moshe Rabbeinu Nimshal Lechama, and Yeshua Lelevana. You get the idea? So you have them there in this way, and it represents Wednesday and the power and the name Shaddai and so on and so forth. So all this, if you can categorize something, you'd have 7 very good categories from which you can learn things. You mentioned, take Thursday. You say Monday and Thursday, you know. So Monday is definitely Gevurah, right? And Thursday turns out to be Hod. So it's underneath Gevurah on the tree, right? So Monday and Thursday are in the Kav small, they're on the left side of that. On the other hand, it's also got the energy of Aaron HaKohen and Sarah. And Sarah is the crossover Shakti from Avraham, just like Rivka is a crossover Shakti for Yitzchak, and she is in Netzach. Okay? So all these things are helpful.
Rivka's in Netzach.
Our daughter.
Our daughter is Rivka, and Victor's Netzach.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the first time I met Reb David Wolfblank Zal,
Yeah.
he looks at me and he says, Netzach.
Uh-huh. Of course, Victor is Netzach,
Right.
sure.
Now, just out of curiosity, can you relate the reading of the Torah on Monday and Thursday to this? What you just said?
Well, Mepi Gvura Shamanu.
Okay.
Torah has something to do with Gvura, right? That's why Matan
But what
Torah
about Hod?
is Shavuos. Tonohitcha ala Shamayim. It's so interesting.
It's so much better than Market Day as an explanation.
Than what?
Market Day.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Well, I think they needed to do it. In Masechet Megillah, you have, when can you read the Megillah? And he says from the 11th day to the 17th day.
Right.
So they ask why the 11th day, because it turns out to be that the Megillah has to be read Motzei Shabbos, you know. The Shabbos is the 13th, and Friday is the 12th. So Thursday is the 11th, because the Bnei Kfar come in at that time into the Krach. So they have it figured out that way, that the calendar has to be organized to help the people who live in the small, the ones who live in Erie to come to Boulder.
Right.
Okay. ואלה הזין מידס הם מבחינת כלים וצמצומים לקבלה שפע קדושה. And these Zion Midas become containers to take the Kedusha with the Shem and Mishras Kodesh, the Nochis v'nimshar mechochmei lo Kaddish. You got it now? He sees the flow comes from Chochmah. This is what he calls Shem and Mishras Kodesh. This is the one that makes for the light. This is the one that makes for the life that comes to life. And he says something else here, that there's always a question, would you say that the light that is in Chochmah is different than the light that is in Bina? It's clear that the Keli of Bina is different than the Keli of Chochmah, okay? So there's a machloikis about that among people who are in Kabbalah. Some of them want to say that it's undifferentiated light that dresses itself in the keli, just as if you have water, and you put in a blue keli, it'll look blue, and you put in a red keli, it'll look red, but the water itself has no color.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a good way of saying it, okay? But then there are some others who say no, because in the Zohar there's a place sometimes that Or HaChochma puts itself into the Klei HaBina, and vice versa. And they call it Achlifu Duchtayu. They have mixed up their place. And the example that we see very strongly is in people who become transsexuals. There you see that you would say the goof is a goof, what in the neshama is undifferentiated. So why should that person have trouble with gender in that goof and say this is not the goof that I fit into, that's not the goof I can be in. So you see that the or also has a quality, okay? Mm-hmm. Here he is not stressing that. Here he's simply saying that the Ora Chochma is contained in those 7. Mm-hmm. And that's very nice, because when you have to fill in the gola on top of the menorah with the various lights, you have to fill it with oil, and it's the same oil that you put in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'd have to say you have to put different oil into each one of those. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then he says, "V'hem dugmat haner asher hu kli v'tzimtzum lekabel hashemen v'apetila v'achochma nikraat yud. V'adayin hu tamir v'ganiz b'li shum his galus ache instaya b'havono olam habina v'havono hu al yedei oisius." Okay, slow. This is so condensed, what he is saying here. You have to unpack it a little more. He says, just so, as in a light, which is a keli and a tzimtzum, which can take the oil and it can take the wick. So Chochma is called Yud. Chochma is like a nekuda, and it's so pointed, so tiny, that it doesn't have any hitgalut, any spreading. It has no extension until it enters into the Havana in the world of Bina. And this Havana cannot happen without letters, without otiyot. So let's go and figure this one out again. Right from the start, in the earliest computers, there was an issue of the stuff is so ephemeral. Like if you type out something, you put into the computer a string, of pluses and minuses, pluses and zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and one. And that string, when you take off the electricity, it dies away. It's no longer there. If I have a file and I want to keep that file, what do I have to do in order to keep it? I have to attach it to a file name. If it's not attached to a file name, it can't be saved. Mm-hmm. So, the same way, Bina operates. Bina needs to call. Chochma says, aha. What is it that you said, aha? By this time, you have to say already, it is Havein Bechochma. Mm-hmm. You have to already give it a name. You say, this is the concept, what I got. But in Chochma, the concept hasn't got a name yet. It is in the womb of Bina that it gets a name. Okay? V'havonohu al yedei oisius. Ve'az misham nisgalim nisparsem hashefa Eloi kadisha shu Hashem en mishchas kodesh kol hasheva midas hakdoshim. So that's the reason why it has to come down, and then it gets differentiated, but it couldn't get anything yet unless it enters into Bina first. So what he now has said, I'm talking to you about the 7, but I want you to know that the 7 have a prehistory. They have an origin. The origin is in Chochma, where it comes as pure light, undifferentiated, and by the time it gets into Bina, it gets names and becomes differentiated, and then it can come down into the 7 midas. Bezehu sod beit min bereshis kazeh shu nekuda behechla. When they're talking about the beit of Bereshit, they point out like this, that it's got a cover above, a cover below, and it's got a wall. Remember what they're saying about V'i atar reshai, look at Bereshit, the beit of Bereshit. You have no right to think malemala, malemato, malifnim. You can only think of what happened from the moment of Bereshit on, which is a kind of thing like you say to a child, don't open the cookie jar, you know? So every Mekubal wants to know what happened lamala, lamata, and lifnim. But at the same time, when they're in the center of the beit, there is the dot of the beit of Bereshit, which the Zohar calls Nekuda Behechala. It is a Nekuda in its own palace, the base, Bayit base palace. And Kiyut HaNekuda Ktana, Val Yedei Hatlat Vavin Ve'akavin Shalabeit Nitgalel Olam Abina. So the 3 kavin, and what is kavin, stand for dimensions. The nekuda of Chochmah is caught in these 3 kavin, like a vav above and a vav in front and a vav below, with a dot inside. But then you take it further, you say, so what are those 3 lines represent? They represent the dimensions. ומשם לעזיין מידס, והם בסוד זיין תבן של בראשית, ברא אלוקים את השמיים ואת הארץ. Now he goes more, and he says, so you have to figure, Bereshit is Chesed, Bara is Gevura, Elokim turns out to be Tiferet. Well, I would have liked it the other way around. Bereshit Elokim Bara, you know? Et HaShamayim ve'et haaretz. But he's saying, this is Yesh Gam Ken Bezeh HaPosuk, Kaf Chet Otiyot, Keneged Kaf Beit Otiyot HaTorah, Vehei Otiyot Menatzbach. Sheheim Zach Otiyot, the 27 letters, when you take the final letters, and then Ve'Hashem and Mishchat Kodesh Amchayotam, because what does a letter doesn't help you at all unless it contains some chokhmah in there, okay? So Ve'Hashem and Mishchat Kodesh Amchayotam ki chokhmah techaya ba'aleh. Chokhmah gives life. Now you see why he gets to the place of the Shem and HaMishcha, being able to bring the Mishkan into life. Because Chokhmah Techaya, and Shem and HaMishcha is Chokhmah, okay? Time out. There are the people who talk about cranial, the cranial thing, which is like the spinal fluid as it bathes the brain and so on and so forth, and it has its own pulsation. Did you ever get a treatment, a cranial treatment?
Yeah, craniosacral.
Huh?
The craniosacral.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. On the one hand, I felt, I would say nothing, you know. On the other hand, it's a very subtle thing that happens. And before I had my operation, I went and got some support from that cranial, what's her name?
Mary.
Evan.
Yeah, Mary.
What?
Evan, I forgot. What her... Anyway, she...
Is she like not far from where Reb Titza lives, and her office is in that area?
She's on 19th Street, on North Street she is.
Okay, so we saw someone different, because
it's a different person.
It was
but there are some
who
other
turned me
people
onto
who
someone.
do this cranial stuff.
Yeah.
And what happens is that just as we need the lymph, and the lymph doesn't have a heart to pump it, so it is between the fascia that the lymphatic stuff gets moved around, and the cranial is that which is the what he calls the tipat hamoach. It's like the brain fluid, the spinal fluid, and according to Rabbi Zalman, it's also connected to semen. Okay, that same. I'm not so sure whether this is anatomically working out, but what they're saying is based on the Gemara, where it says that the father gives the white, the mother gives the red, and so that's how he has. So lymph and cranial fluid would be on the white side. Okay.
And I was, just before you got to that point, I was kavim. I remember the sugya that deals with how do you determine when a child becomes an adult, a bar mitzvah.
Shtei sarot, yeah.
Mala me'akav.
Yeah.
Me'al hakav.
Yeah.
Right. And for the longest time, when we were studying this, of course, they wouldn't be open enough to say what the hell they were talking about. And we were sitting there going,
yeah, what is it? Well, so they want to talk Lashon Nekiya about the Zaken HaTachton, Zakan HaTachton, etc., etc. Okay.
Right, okay.
So Shemen Michas Kodesh, Hamachaya Esem Ki HaChochmot Chaya Baleo, Venase Koyach. So then the Kozayin comes together with the Nekuda, which then makes it 28. What else is 28? For everything, turn. There is a season. So there's 14 yes and 14 no. Like Holzman, 8 lechol right?
Right.
8 lasot, 8 lo lasot. So he has 14 on each side, which adds again to 28. Kove Hashem, yachlifu koach. If you trust to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you can take the no and turn it into a yes. Okay? Wonderful ways in which people have done that. וזהו הכוח העליון הקודש כביכול המשפיע אומר להזין תבן סוד זין ימי הבניין. Always have to figure out the difficult Rosh Tevas, what does he mean by that? על ידי עולם הבינה הם בסוד זין קני המנורה שהם הכלים המצמצים מקבלים את השמן כעולם כי כולם בחוכמה עשיסו. Okay. Now we have a kind of mechanical model also for the menorah. There's something still missing. You may have in the menorah, you may have the oil, you may have the wick, you may have the keli, and everything is there. Remember in that shtikla that I did for Chana Rochel of Ludmir, where she says everybody talks about the oil, talks about the wick, and about the fire. Nobody talks about the menorah, about the keli of that. And she says, I've come to teach the Torah of the menorah. Okay. Vehineksi. Huh?
That's the feminine. The kli is the feminine.
That's right.
All the metaphor of my savta is the feminine is the kli, is the container.
Did you ever read that shtickle in it's in
Yeah, I'll give.
Okay.
you have it. Okay. Vehine ksiv uvedat chadorim yamale. Da'at is necessary. V'ika yichud v'akisho shel chochma bina shem trein rein de lo misparshen vol yidei hadas ha'elyon HaKodesh. The what makes for sustained consciousness? It's true that Chochmah puts in the seed moment, the bindu, puts in that moment into the womb of Bina, and Bina can contain it. But Chochmah, since it is a Borik HaMavrik, it goes like lightning, it disappears. How do you make sure that it should stay long enough? Okay? And that's like saying, again, I take the computer model. The impulse that you put, let's say, for a letter, So it appears on the screen. Why does it not disappear right away? What keeps it there until you save it or you let go of it? That's the da'at. Da'at is what gives it time. Remember in Reb Nachman the story of the 7 beggars. He has the heart and the spring, which is a way of saying Chochmah Bina, yeah? And what happens is that the heart has no time and the spring has no time. And so it is because of the Ish HaChesed who goes around and collects moments of awareness from people. And from these moments of awareness he can give to the heart. So the heart has another day to long for the spring, and that's how time. So you get the idea of time. That also has another problem. The problem is pain. Most Yosef das, Yosef machov. You know, add that, you get more pain. When you think of what is a painkiller, to remove the da'at of that you shouldn't have the awareness of the pain, right?
Right.
And so when someone like Stephen Levine goes into the thing, so he says, go into the pain. Don't run away from it, because there is a knowledge that you will get out of that. It's very interesting how this comes, okay?
It's the lesson of childbirth too, by the way.
Pardon?
That's the lesson of childbirth.
Yeah.
For in the technology that we use now of training women for labor,
Yeah.
rather than it's going into the pain,
Right.
into the experience of the contraction,
Right.
to celebrate it, to support it, and
To collaborate
and to
with
collaborate
it.
with it, and that's where the woman gets the message of what's really happening in her body. That's how natural childbirth is possible.
Yeah.
But the woman can report what's really going on when she's in the pain. It's not when you take it
Well,
away.
when my Mimi was born, Fagel wanted to be put out. You know,
That was a different era.
But that was a different era,
Yeah.
really. And in those years, that's what all the doctors did. They figured, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. Sure. Ve'adat ha'elyon ha'kodesh hu b'chinas midos. By the way, one more thing about that. The 3 matzahs that you have in on the Seder plate. The top matzah is for matzah's mitzvah. The second matzah is there's going to be also lechem only, because it has to be the smaller piece broken off, from which you leave the afikoman for later, and that represents bina. So the first top is chokhmah, and it's bina. The matzah with which you make the sandwich, the hillel sandwich, is da'at. But in order, for us, it is with moror. We eat the da'at with moror. So another way in which I like to say it is, Chochmah is the conceptualizer. Bina is the analyzer, the detailer. Da'at is the reality tester. So how do I know that I'm not hallucinating you, that you're here? Because here in the back of my, here in my back, it's not so comfortable sitting on this chair, I feel how my wallet is squeezing against my tush and my bones there and the circulation. In other words, it grounds me. What grounds me is the feeling that little bit of pain, as it were, which says this is for real, okay? So when...
is that why you eat the maror with the dot?
That's right.
For the pain.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Called Mosif Das, Mosif Machov, Yosef Das, Yosef Machov.
And I'm relating also to this, what this Ed Flanagan was explaining to me about how nicotine is a grounding.
Yeah.
All right? And that when you feel angst or pain, both kind of psychological and physical, then you go to the drug, which is the nicotine.
Right.
All right? To ground you from it.
Yeah.
Right? Morphine, on the other hand, is also it's the opposite. Right? It takes what did you call it? The awareness of the
Yeah.
pain. The pain doesn't disappear. It's still there, I presume.
Yeah. How do I know? When I got my Ralphing done in my mouth,
Yes.
and then every bit of Novocaine came back, you know. When they gave me Novocaine to work on my teeth and gums, it turns out that it didn't kill it. It was really there, but it hid it from me.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did this hard work inside the mouth and the nose and going up, it all came back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so let's go on. So, he calls it the Train Ryan the Lomis Parshin. They're the two lovers that do not separate. And how do they connect? They connect through the dot.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen, there's some tankas. And there's a tanka in which there's a white dakini sitting on top of a male person in Yichud. Okay? She has draped herself around him and contains him at that time. And that is a way of saying how Chochmah and Bina are together. And the two, corpus callosum and the cerebellum represent that for us. Because Chochmah is right hemisphere, Bina is left hemisphere, corpus callosum and the reticular formation system in the back. And what does it do? It is the switchboard that says, what do you pay attention to? Okay. So, V'hadas elyon hu b'chinas midoseh shel Moshe Rabbeinu k'neder laboin b'sod Hashem. So Das is Moshe Rabbeinu. Now that's a little harder to say, because Moshe Rabbeinu in the Ushpizin represents Netzach. So how come you say that? Okay. Sometimes you say Moshe Rabbeinu is Chochmah. So that's the point I'm making in this ladder that this ring is trying to say, that Netzach and Hod of Atzilut become Chochmah and Bina in Bria. That's why they say Miyaminu Smol Yenikat HaNeviim. The Neviim draw from Netzach and Hod. Right? And so
right.
Moshe Rabbeinu is Netzach and Aaron is Hod.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, he's saying here that Moshe Rabbeinu is Das. And how could he say that? Because a lot of the teaching keeps saying that, what is Pesach? Pesach was the time when Das was in Golus. That the whole point of Yetzias Mitzrayim is to take Das out of Golus. When you get, even here what he's trying to say, the Kabbalah Research Foundation, and what deeper yet is what the Nesiva Sholem keeps saying. He points out, remember, that we need two things, Dveikus and Das. And Dveikus, we are always in Dveikus because we are being created. We wouldn't exist if we weren't in Dveikut. So how come we don't know it? Because we lack the Dat. Dat kanisa mechasarto. If you own Das, you haven't lost anything, you have it all. So Das is the issue here. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who brings us to Das. That's another function of him, okay? Kemavur bekisva arizal HaKodesh Tevas Moshe, who mispar shnei shemas HaKodeshim El Shaddai adds up to Moshe. And Shaddai is, of course, El Shaddai is the name in Netzach. Shal Yodam bo izgalus HaShefel Olam HaBriya. וגם משום הוכר הוא מספר דשם עין בית הקודש, בריבוע שם הוואי במילוי יודין, מספר שם יהיה הקודש במילוי יודין, כי זה יוד, יוד, hey, yud, yud. And if you really have to lay it out on paper so you can see how this works itself out. The name Yud He Vav He, when you go, remember Nachman of Braslav, of Uman, you know? So they have this thing, Yud, then Yud He is now 25. Yud He Vav, add to Yud He Vav, and then add to it Yud He Vav He, that adds up to 72.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When you make Yud Vav Dalet, Hey Yud, Vav Yud Vav, Hey Yud, it also adds up to 72. So they all want to say that this is that great name of 72, which represents how it is in Bina. Okay? So that's why you say Ahavat Olam Ahavtanu, Aleph, Ayin Aleph. So they go and say that the Ahavat Olam comes from Eim Habonim Semecho, from Bina Ima Elo, and so on and so forth. It would be so kedai for someone to do a kind of a study of the hidden feminist things that are in these texts, okay? All right. ושני שמות הקדושים אלו ממש במזמור מוישה, ואלו השני שמות הקדושים הם סוד חוכמה ובינה מסייחדים על ידי הדעת הקודש, and that's Moshe. Now you see where Moshe is. Moshe is the one who keeps together Chochmah and Bina. Now I want to say something from Miriam here. It may not add in the Gematria, but she is the one who said to Yocheved and to Amram, you know, so she was creating the Da'at for Papa and Mama in that situation to bring about Moshe Rabbeinu, you know. So Miriam is the Makor Hada'at, if you will, in this way, all right? ומתגלים לעולם הבריאה על ידי שני שמות אל שדי, והנה הבורא ברוך הוא שמואל לגודל רב טוב, ואחד זה רוצה להיטיב לישראל עם קרובה, וציווה אסם שיעשס המשכן וכליו, הכל בדוגמה עליוני כביכול, שעל יודם יסמשך וישרה בשפע הקודש לכל העולמס. וציווה אסם לעשס מנורה טהורה בשבע נרוסיה, דוגמה זין כנעם נורה קדושים עליונים. So he's saying, you know, the other day, as I'm doing the Parsha every day, I got to the place of, if I were the editor, I would have put this into another manual, you know, and said, why does it have to be in the Torah taking up so much space? You know, they could have said some other things, sort of more like the Upanishads. You know, why does he tell us all this stuff? When it comes to the Nesiim, you know, Nochamal, Karas Kesef Achash, Leishameh, Mishkola, and so on and so forth, repeating all these kinds of things, I would say, I would want to handle the text differently. But the basic assumption was that if it is in the text, you cannot leave this stam and you have to read it better. So he is now trying to tell us about what the menorah stands for on the higher levels, and that's so beautiful. ולקח מאור לשמש זי זוך, דוגמס השמן זוך עליון הנקרא הקודש כמבואר. Those are the zoch, are the 27 otiyot with which you make the Torah. This is so beautiful because, it's right. Many people will tell you that in the East they're talking about Shonyata, about the void, and Maya, and nothing, you know, it's not for real, and all that kind of stuff. Turns out that they had a teacher by the name of Bar Tahari, interesting name, Bar Tahara, Bar Tahari, who talks about that the building blocks of the universe are the letters, 35 letters, Sanskrit letters, which is interesting. How did they come to say that letters? Because consciousness needs to have kelim, and the letters are those kelim. And so if any hashpah is coming down milmala, it has to come to us in otiyot. And that's not easy to handle, because why they're all otiyot are limiting, and why do we need them, and can't we have the tzurot without otiyot, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't work, because for intuition and for feeling we don't have otiyot, and that's our problem. And but for thinking and for doing, we have lots of otiyot. So that's the
You can't
reason.
have the masculine without the feminine.
Pardon?
You can't have the masculine without the feminine.
That's right. That's right. And the two of them need to be together. And so the otiyot here, there's shemen zay zach, okay? And then say, and so he says, "Ukemavur ve'ikar hayichud ve'kishur al yidei hadat ha'elyon, shu b'chinas midas Moshe Rabbeinu. Ulazeh tziva b'Baruch Hu v'Baruch Shemay leMoshe Rabbeinu, ve'ato tetzaves b'nei Yisrael moshen safsa b'chibur." You connect them. Ve'yikra lecha shemen zay zach. You connect them. How do you connect them? They bring you their keyboard, all the otiyot, yeah? And then you can write on that keyboard. But if they don't bring you their keyboards, you can't write on that, okay? V'yikolech Hashem ezayzo. Hainu, tikasher u'tiyachet u'techavein la'Hashem en zoch ha'elyon ha'kodesh ve'ator besod zach otiyot u'kanal, right? And that helps. V'tikasher al yedei midatcha shu nadat ha'elyon ha'kodesh ha'shemen im zoch. You'll connect the Chokhmah with the 27 otiyot. This is how it's possible to have a light, an awareness that can be made constant. Hainu lehamshich hashefa meshach rabot ilah, that oil from above Elah Kadisha, to bring it to the Zayin Kenei HaMenorah, Shem besod Shivas Yemei Bereishi, Shem besod Zayin Neres, Ulahalas Ner Tomid. And how is it going to happen? Who's going to do this? So Moshe Rabbeinu Ato Tetzaveh, you are going to create the connection. And after you make the connection, that'll be Al Yedei Aaron Uvonav HaKadoshim, Ki Kohen Hu besod HaChesed, U'Shiyadliko HaMenorah B'Kavona Zako Nekiyo, וזה ימשך שפע טוב וחסד אל עליון יסבור אל כל העולמס ועלי כל העולמס והמשכיל יבין. So I can imagine him doing this at the Shalashudas, you know, and rounding out all the teachings about the Sfirot. And that's why I like the shtickle a lot.
Thank you.
And if you look at the end of the chart that I have, at the end of Gate to the Heart, where I equate the days and the archetypes and so on. So,
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you.
So